You know how sometimes you just shouldn't open the door? Well, for my friends and me, it wasn't a door. It was a hatch. It was one of those perfect late summer afternoons. Me, Layla, Dion, and Renee were just messing around in the woods the way we always did. We were miles from any marked trail when Marcus, who always had an eye for weird stuff, spotted it. Half buried under a thick blanket of leaves and dirt was a rusted metal hatch. It looked ancient, but the warning signs plastered all over it, they looked fresh. U.S. government property. No trespassing, biohazard. Layla was the first to say what we were all thinking. We should leave. But Dayon, ever the daredevil, just laughed. Come on, Layla. When are we ever going to see something like this again? The argument was short. Curiosity is a powerful thing, and the four of us against Layla's common sense. Well, common sense didn't stand a chance. With a groan of rusted metal, we heaved the hatch open. A blast of cold, stale air hit us, smelling like damp earth and disinfectant. One by one, we climbed down the rickety iron ladder into the darkness. The place was an old underground bunker. Wires hung from the ceiling like dead vines, and the walls were covered in these strange, frantic markings. Scratches, really, like someone had tried to claw their way out. We navigated through corridors filled with broken lab equipment until we found a large central chamber. In the middle of it stood a huge shattered glass cylinder. A plaque on its base read, Subject 9, Containment Breach. A shiver went down my spine. Containment breach? My hand was shaking as I held up my phone's flashlight. Renee gasped. Guys, what do you think was in there? And that's when it answered. From the deepest, darkest corner of the room, something stirred. A low, guttural growl echoed in the chamber. Our flashlights frantically scanned the darkness, and for a split second we saw it. It was pale, twisted and impossibly thin, with limbs that bent at all the wrong angles. Its eyes, they were just black pits. Before we could even scream, the emergency lights flickered, buzzed and died, plunging us into absolute blackness. We weren't alone, and it was awake. Panic exploded. We scrambled, tripping over each other in the dark, just trying to get back to the ladder. We could hear it skittering across the concrete floor, its movements unnervingly fast. Then a scream. It was Dion. When we finally got a light back on him, we saw it. A huge gushing wound on his leg, but it wasn't just a cut. The flesh around it was blackening, sizzling almost, like acid was eating away at him. He collapsed, crying out in agony. The wound was spreading, veins of black crawling up his leg. Marcus and I tried to lift him, but he was dead weight. The skittering was getting closer. We could hear its wet, ragged breathing just a few feet away. That's when Dion looked at us, his eyes wide with terror and a grim resolve. Go, he choked out, shoving Layla towards the ladder. Get out of here, now! We hesitated, but the creature lunged from the shadows. Dion threw himself in its path, giving us the precious seconds we needed. The last thing we saw was him being dragged away into the darkness, his screams echoing up the shaft until they were abruptly cut short. We scrambled up the ladder, not daring to look back, and slammed the heavy hatch shut. We collapsed on the forest floor, gasping for air, our bodies shaking, our minds completely broken. The silence of the woods felt deafening after the chaos below. We had survived, but we had left Dion behind. As the sun began to set, a low rumble started deep beneath our feet. The ground trembled, and then we heard it. Faint, distorted, but unmistakably his voice calling from the earth below. Help me. It wasn't over. The horror we had unleashed was still down there, and it had Dion.